Today is October 24th. I was going to talk about something, but it just turns out I have nothing to talk about. I'm so the progress is I'm steadily moving forward, and uh, and I've been analyzing where I am, who I am, and where I need to be, and it just turns out that this is going to be this is essentially um, this is essentially it. This is essentially it. I mean, I'm uh wow. It's so if I, it okay, if I were to just reflect who I am right now, I uh, I used to have a family. My father passed away under my care because I was the power of attorney. And after he passed away, there was bad blood between my siblings, and they demanded money from me, uh, my father's estate. And in order for me to stay in my mother's house, I asked my mother to see if I can remain in the house. And the only way to do that is by transferring the house to me. So when that was taken care of, my siblings became enraged. I've been watching Facebook, and there's some people who are like road rage. Now I can see why there's road rage. People get so obscenely obsessive and become so upset. They just can't see the reality for what it is. So when I attempted to remain in the house, it didn't last very long. And so I was evicted from the house, even though I was the owner. I was living in a hotel, and I was in utter despair. And I contacted my Catholic parishioner, and Scott, and somehow that small talk ended up in me somehow obtaining employment way out west, way out east in Orlando. So I moved during this turmoil. During this time, I acquired a civil attorney so that I can at least speak with my mother and visit her once in a while to make sure that she's healthy. But the civil case went on, and the judge just took the house, and um, soon afterwards, a criminal case was placed, and I was dragged into a criminal case where, in Idaho, if somebody takes more than $1,000, each offense is a felony with a maximum of 25 years in prison. So my low-paying attorney tells me that this is the situation, and by this time, COVID was rampant, and and I was very fearful, and there was no way to make sense into these two siblings who were still enraged. These were enraged individuals that reasoning cannot be made, and therefore I pled guilty. Though I attempted to say that I was innocent, but if I did that, it would have been a. Um, I thought there was no way in this world at that moment any juror would look at me and think of me as an innocent individual. So I agreed. Now I have a. So I spent 30 days in Ada County Jail while I was employed at um, at actually was I employed? Well, I was not. Okay, so I was while I was in Orlando, and so when I told them about that, and when it came time for me to serve time of 30 days and 10-year probation, that was the sentence: 10-year probation, supervised probation. for 10 years. And so I was there, and as soon as I told them, look, I'm going to be spending 30 days in jail, Ada County Jail, and my employer just said, hey, see you. So bye-bye. So I was left without a job, and when I came back after serving time, I had no place to go. Essentially, there was no place for me to go. And so what I had to do, so I took a plane and spent 30 days, and I must have lost like 30 pounds. And then when I came back to Orlando, I attempted to obtain employment. But obtaining employment with a criminal felony record is impossible, that I found out recently. Because any background check would have revealed who I am. Any credit checks, anything like that would essentially make it impossible for me to obtain employment. And while I was taking care of my father, and because he was essentially wheelchair ridden and bedridden, I was in charge of taking care of him, and it was virtually impossible for me to take care of with holding a job. And so it interfered with a part-time job that I had, and I was essentially unemployed. So at that time, I had some credit card debts, and so I had to file for Chapter 7. So essentially, my existence was, it was downhill. There was essentially, it was rock and a hard place, essentially. So, and then my previous employer was kind enough to provide some funds for me to maintain my rent in Orlando, but soon, after months and months of attempting to find employment, I just could not find it, because there was something called a interstate compact, which means that if I were to move to a different state other than Idaho, that there would be it would take 30 days for all the legal systems to be aware of who I am, and that transfer takes 30 days. And as a convicted felon, I would have to, and the employer, have to be contacted by law enforcement on a periodic basis to make sure that I'm employed. And no employer would want to do that. And one of the potential employer in California, and when I informed them that, is, oh, let me check with my legal department. And they never returned anything back. So here I am. And I was essentially broke. And I was essentially unable to pay. I told my Orlando apartment, look, I'm out of money. This is all I can pay, and I will exit this apartment. And I know that there's a lease. We have to break the lease, and I had to get out of there. So before I could get out of there, I contacted somebody that I knew in Microchip, and he was kind enough to provide me some funds, and a friend provided me some funds for me to use in my travels. And so I contacted my former spiritual director of a Catholic church, and I informed him, look, I could get a job here, but there's no place for me here. And so he was kind enough to give me a job with a restaurant that his son owns now, because he used to own it. He gave the restaurant to his son. Now he's owned it. So I was fortunate enough to have a job when I drove here. So I drove the car. I drove a car from Orlando to Boise, and checked into the shelter. And then for the shelter, I remained there for about 1 year. And this December, it'll be my 2 years as a convicted felon, and I supervised probation, which means that I still have 8 years to go. And I inform everyone that I'm innocent. I'm truly innocent. But I cannot say that, because if I say that during that process of trial, Lord knows what could, 50 years is, even partial of that would just literally ruin it. And so this agreement, I thought, based on my attorney, he says that, okay, so you will plead guilty to a felony, withheld judgment. So he said something about it. It sounded incredibly. It sounded like it was possible for me to obtain employment even though I had that criminal record. But withheld judgment means after the probation is over, which is 10 years from now, then the judgment is withheld, not right now. Which essentially means is I'm walking around shackled to the US and unable to move from place to place without informing my supervised probation officer. So essentially what that means is for the next next 8 years, it will be virtually impossible for me to obtain employment as an engineer. Okay, even though I have references to the fact that and I have other individuals who are managers who have managed me, stating that I am a very good engineer. And so now I've thought about, and I have a manager who's kind enough to me to that I can bounce ideas off of, who also works at Microchip, and I informed him, I made a list of things that I would do, because when I got here and I was in the shelter and I interviewed with HP through Experian, and one of the things is they can't hire somebody with a criminal record, because I passed all the interviews and they did a background check and asked me, hey, what is this? Can you explain this to me? But what is there to explain? There's no way to explain something like that. So that fell through. And so I had to choose. And so what I had to choose was this day trading thing that I can do, because it doesn't matter who I am. It doesn't matter what my background is. It is my own business. It's a business that I hire to myself, and whatever I am, it doesn't matter what my background is, because I hired myself. And so I took on this incredible challenge to become a day trader. And initially, what I had to do was I had to go to the Boise State University to use their internet, because there's no internet anywhere. Fortunately for me, I had this notebook computer that I had. This is going like now 6 years. This is a 6-year-old computer, 7-year-old computer, and unfortunately I bought the whiz-bang computer, and so it's still good for internet and basic essentials. So initially, while I was living in a shelter, I was working as a dishwasher. And I'm so fortunate that I have that, because it affords me to do things now. So initially what I had to do was go to Boise State University, and because I'm like 53 years old, and washing dishes, I'll tell you what, it's not easy. And running around, my ankle still hurts. And lifting like 50 pounds of 5-gallon buckets, that is full of water and things like that. That is not easy. That is definitely not easy. And running around, and boy, you have to work there to figure out what that's like. So I used to go to Boise State University, and then when Boise State University hours are minimized, then what I had to do, because there's parkings involved, then I would go to the public library. And I would go to the public library, and their internet is extremely fast, but the hours are limited, and their holidays are there's a lot of holidays, and it's difficult, because their hours are open like 10 o'clock to something, and it's difficult to remain there. And after that, I noticed that I had this bright idea that the airport, the Boise Airport, International Airport, has free internet. Okay, so when I get there and I would try to do the internet, but the internet is very slow. And I had to park a ways out because if I were to park in the airport parking, it's like $10. And I made a video of that. So here I am with this jacket on, with the hood on, and my backpack and lunch from the shelter, and I'm going there to trade and study. But the internet is so slow; is difficult. And then when I was at Boise State University, I would doze off, and they knew that I was homeless, and so the cleaning people, the custodians knew who I am, and they enforced a policy of not allowing individuals without a uh, BSU badge, and so I was kicked out of there. So I had to figure something out. I could remain there, and then I started searching for some office that I can use. And fortunately for me, at that time, the 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 individuals who are at Office Evolution, and there were a few others, but they were out of reach. Their cost was too expensive. But for me, I was so fortunate that the individuals who are here, and I'm at Office Evolution right now, and I'm taking incredible advantage of this virtually download speed is like 20 meg. Upload and download is like 20 meg because I would save my YouTube videos on my camera and then send it up and down, and it's incredibly fast. If I were to use cell phone, it would take like half an hour for the same file. So here I am, and during this time as a day trader, I've been losing everything. I've been um, and at about like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I started losing my eyesight. I'm not exactly sure. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. Is it nutrition, or maybe I was sitting there and maybe the windows with the lights coming in, or maybe I was working and when I was dropping fingers, there's some I was breathing in gas, and the gas got into my lungs and it blocked oxygen levels, and one day I started like it just started like my right eye started to decline in vision. You can't tell right now. Nobody knows unless somebody believes what I say. And then while I was living in the shelter, about 5 months ago, my kids graduated from BSU, and I'm a divorced a father of two, and my kids have graduated from Boise State University. And I was attempting to stay in their house at the shed that I built, but they said it's not a good idea. Now I see why, because after they graduated, they wanted to sell the house and move with their mother, who's their mom was already somewhere else. I don't know where they are. And one of the unfortunate thing is at least my son attempted to contact me to transfer his number on his cell phone while I was working. Because I was working, I was not able to answer it, so I was unable to figure out how to help him. And so both my kids changed their cell phone number, and they stopped communicating with me. So here I am in America, and the only individual that are lukewarm and sweet are individuals who are in brothers of Christ. And the only person that I can trust is Jesus Christ, because there's no one. Fortunate for me, the individuals here, they're good. Okay, so that's fine. But as far as family members are concerned, literally, uh, just like my shirt here, essentially they've casted me out. Even my own children have casted me out. So in order for me to, in order, so everyone has counted me out. Everyone has counted me out, except for the church people who have generously and kindly working with one eye is very difficult. Uh, and they've been so kind. So now I have a room that I go to and I can take a shower and I can sleep. For the past 1 week, I've been like passed out. Literally because, first of all, I was suffering from food poisoning and that just laid me out for a while. Now that I'm recovering. Now I'm making this introduction about who I am. So right now, what I'm hoping to do is what I'm making as a dishwasher is paying the basic essentials that I have and upkeeps and maintaining the supervision and things like that. Once I become successful as a day trader, I plan to start paying everything off and uh, and then and then figure something out because obviously I'm 53 years old and my lifespan is I'm not Warren Buffett or individuals who live a long time. I've lived a very very hard life, uh, and that's why somebody calls me resilient because I've been around, I've knocked around, and so so this is it. This is my future, and I'm spending. And fortunately for me, this place is an integral part of helping me to grow as a day trader. Without this place, this internet is crucial. Without this computer and this place and temperature controlled environment where I can, if I wanted to, I could work 24/7. That's how wonderful this place is. But I'm human. I have to go get some sleep first. So that's where I am. And I hope to join these individuals who are on YouTube who are successful day traders who make a living. Their primary income is day trading. I hope to join them one of these days. And one day I can say to the owner and tell them, look, I'm so thankful that you overlooked so much of my deficiencies because I'm extreme introvert and um, and knowing how people can be uh, road raged, and because I don't behave in the way that they expect me to behave, they can just flip their top. And so I am so fortunate. I am so thankful. And so I look forward to taking this journey and however long it takes, because what am I going to do for at least 8 years? So I'm going to be about 61 years, somewhere around there, when this supervised probation is over. And finally, at that moment, if I wanted to become an engineer, I could. However, time has passed, memory has been lost, my skill set has been gone. It is essentially erasing my previous life. The next 8 years will be a point where the life that I used to have will be completely erased, and there will not be any. My resume will be far gone and will be a vacant spot for any positions that I have, should I ever have any opportunity of becoming an engineer. It'll be filled with day trading, and I look forward to somebody on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel says, "Hey, you should introduce yourself." I waited until today. Hopefully, this is sufficient. Hopefully, this is sufficient for. Also, I'm a Catholic. I'm also a fourth degree Catholic knight. And so when somebody asks me about my patriotism and which country that I belong to, though you may look at me and I look a little bit different than the normal local individuals here, God does not give fourth degree knights to just anyone, as the fourth degree is patriotism. And uh, I look forward to, uh, and I fortunately for me, I made a few individuals in the shelter who I communicate with on Facebook, who are faithful Christians who I delight in. And so those are the couple of things. And my ultimate objective is to, because what am I going to do with money anyway? I'm an introvert. And I love these minimal things. And there isn't a good buffet makes me really happy. So my ideal path for my future is to become successful one day. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I heard it takes time. So when I get there, I hope that one day my kids will contact me. And when they contact me, and I will, because I've been thinking about what I'm going to say to my kids when they contact me, okay? And I'm praying. Every time I go to church on Sundays, I pray. And that is the ultimate objective of becoming a consistently profitable day trader. To place myself in a situation where my kids don't have to say, hey, look, my dad is a homeless bum. Hopefully, and if that is the reason why they have cut ties with me, I want to make sure that that reason is extinguished. So that's me.